Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back. So one of the 3 Nightfall options this week is the Pyramidion, which means you have a chance at getting the Nightfall exclusive weapon, the Silicon Neuroma. This is a sniper rifle exclusive to this strike and is a very solid weapon. So in today's video I thought I'd do a little guide on just how to get through the strike fairly quickly at a fairly decent pace and I guess essentially farm this strike to try and get this weapon. So firstly you'll want to go to your Nightfall card, the 5 of Swords, and change the modifiers. The ones that we used were Solar Singe and Heavyweight, so that of course our solar weapons would do more damage, and our heavy weapons would also do even more damage, as well as have more chance for heavy ammo to drop whilst playing the strike. You can also, if you want, use the momentum modifier. What this modifier means is that whilst you're stood still, you won't regenerate health. However, whilst you are moving and whilst you are sprinting, you do constantly regenerate health. And as I say, some people do prefer this because it encourages you to keep moving throughout the strike and to keep sprinting, which can sometimes be dangerous. But the payoff is that you're getting much faster recovery instead of having to wait behind cover, and you can just constantly regenerate health whilst just by moving basically. So if you want, you can use momentum as well, but the main 2 modifiers you want are Solar Singe and Heavyweight. The point of this strike isn't to get a high score, but rather just to get through the strike as fast as possible and open up the chest at the end, which is where the Silicon Neuroma drops. So for your loadouts, starting with supers, you'll want at least 1 Well of Radiance Warlock and 1 Blade Barrage Hunter. Now of course you don't have to have these classes, but these are just kind of the ideal ones. These are the ones that we prefer to use, just getting through a strike with ease. The Well of Radiance comes in handy just for having those heals, as well as the Empowering Rifts and just getting that bonus damage. And then the Blade Barrage Hunter is just ridiculous for both ad clearance and generating orbs, as well as single target damage on the boss. Third subclass can be kind of whatever you want really, could be a Tether, could be a Sunbreaker Titan, whatever really. We ran with 2 Blade Barrage Hunters and 1 Well of Radiance Warlock. Then for your weapons, you'll want at least 1 person running some kind of arc weapon and another person with a void weapon, because depending on what enemies spawn in your strike, they can vary. So sometimes you can get either Taken Acolytes that have void shields, and other times you can get Vex Harpies with arc shields. So you'll want 2 people running 1 of each, just so that way you can deal with the adds depending on which ones spawn. I don't think there's really a way of predetermining and knowing which enemies are going to spawn, so it's just kind of a good idea to have both just in case. So with our loadouts we had 1 person running with the Aikilo shotgun, which of course is solar. Then I would either switch out with an arc shotgun, the Badlander, or the Retold Tale, which is the Dreaming City shotgun, which is void. Primary weapons can be whatever. I was using a pulse rifle, my friends were using midnight coups and hand cannons, so it's kind of whatever you want really, whatever works for you. And then for your heavy weapon, ideally you'll want to be running the Sleeper Simulant, just because of the ridiculous damage that it'll do, especially because of the Solar Singe combined with Heavyweight. This will allow you to essentially melt the boss instantly. Now before I get into this strike itself, I do want to mention that there is kind of a little bit of confusion as to how the drop rates work on these Nightfall exclusives. So supposedly the way it's meant to work is that the higher your score in an individual strike, the better your chances are of getting the weapon. But due to the randomness, due to the RNG elements of these drops, it isn't really necessary to even bother going for a high score. Rather, it's more efficient to go for quicker runs and open up the chest more times so that you have more chances of actually getting it to drop, rather than doing fewer strikes but getting a higher score. So with our runs, we were managing to get through them in about 10 minutes or so, which is a fairly decent time for a Nightfall, so it's not a lot of wasted time if you do go for this method. It allows you to clear the strike more times. Now what we did was, because we weren't too sure on how the drops work exactly, what we did was we went through the strike once normally to get a high score above 100k, so that way we had just that high score there on our account, and then in subsequent runs that's when we essentially just farmed it and went for 10-minute speed runs, because with all our runs we were getting less than 5k points, and in about 15 or so runs I actually managed to get 2 Silicon Neuromas to drop. However, my teammates got none. So that just kind of goes to show it's all about luck really. It doesn't really matter too much about getting a high score. We just did the 100k first just for the sake of it, just so we had that, and then went for the speed run. So running through this strike, there are some sections that you can just blast straight through and not really care about dealing with ads. One of those sections is at the beginning after you open the entrance. You can just hop on a Sparrow and just blast straight through it. The first actual kind of encounter where you do have to kill the enemies, you'll either encounter Vex Harpies with Arc Shields or take an Acolyte with Void Shields like I said earlier. If you can get someone in there to blow the shields off with the respective elements, then you can cause kind of a chain reaction and kill almost everything instantly. Or if you have a Blade Barrage up or some kind of ad clearing super, then this is an opportunity to generate a lot of orbs. Next, after running through a couple of corridors, you'll come to the next section where you find you have to activate 3 Vex Sync Plates. Now this one's fairly easy to get through as well. You can get through it really quickly if each of you takes 1 plate each and just activates them all at the same time instead of doing one by one. That just allows you to open the shield up to get to the next room quicker. If you're worried about dying or anything, or worried about any of the ads, don't be afraid to pop down a Well of Radiance. There can be 2 Vex Hydras that spawn in here, and there'll be a bunch of Vex Harpies with Arc Shields, so have somebody ready to clear those out as well, but it's a fairly easy room to get through. The only room where you may run into a little bit of trouble and may need to slow down a little bit just to clear out some of the ads is the final room where you have to activate, or rather hack, 4 Vex network nerd things. And so there's going to be a bunch of ads in here. There's some invisible Minotaurs that are shielded by goblins and a bunch of phalanxes, so you need to watch out for them. But if you're lucky and able to, you can just rush in there, hack the nerd, and then just run away. And once you've hacked all 4 of them, it should just then allow you to pass on to the next area. But really, you don't need to rush through this part, so don't be afraid to just kind of take it slow and clear out some of the ads beforehand before running in there and hacking the nerds, because it can be a little bit frustrating if you go in there and just keep dying. Once you've done that, you'll then be onto the boss, which is really easy. You can just melt the boss in seconds, so hopefully at this point you should have at least 1 Blade Barrage Hunter with their super up. If not, it's not the end of the world. It's still possible to just instantly melt the boss with sleepers, but just ideally, you know, you'd like to have at least 1 of those supers up. Well of Radiance isn't necessary for this bit. As long as you've got maybe an Empowering Rift, then you should be fine. As soon as the boss comes out, he will be immune for just a split second, so watch out for that, don't waste shots instantly. But as soon as his immunity window is up, just start melting the boss. He may teleport once, so be ready to aim where he's about to teleport to, and if you can fire off that shot just before the shields come up, you can kill the boss instantly. And that is how you essentially farm this strike for the Silicon Neuroma. It should take you about 10 minutes or so, at least that's how long it was taking us. If not, you don't really have to worry until it starts hitting about the 15-minute mark, because that's when your score starts going down and it starts to penalise you. But just as long as you can get through this strike as fast as possible, then you should be okay. So as always, I hope that you found this video useful. If you did, please let me know in the comments. Leave a like on the video, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.